For Reaper Metal Productions, I am Adam of Unbaptized Records, here to make another video for you today. Today's video is just going to be going over an order I placed recently. It's going to be a pseudo unboxing video because I already went through the process of unboxing and actually listening to most of these CDs. So instead of going through the tedium of finding my knife and opening up a box, I just have all of the CDs here for you, and I'll let you know what I got and a little bit of what I thought of each one, except for the few I didn't really listen to yet. So this was sort of a big boy order. I got 16 CDs. I tried to go for a nice variety this time. A little bit of everything, some things that were suggestions from the past, things that I've heard about that I just didn't decide to pick up till recently, or they just weren't under a current pressing that I could afford or find. So it's kind of a nice variety. Not everything is something that I immediately jumped on. Some stuff I've been kind of thinking about getting here and there. And then some of it I like, but it's not really my favorite. But without any further ado, I'll just go through the list. So first we have a Canadian classic Exciter with Heavy Metal Maniac. I thought it was pretty decent. I'm not really that into the sort of late 80s thrash and heavy metal outside of sort of even the main four American thrash metal bands. I don't really care for them that much. So that was an interesting listen. Definitely something I wouldn't have normally picked up, but I know that they're classic, and the Canadian bands don't tend to get a lot of love, so I wanted to pick it up, listen to it. I thought it was pretty decent. Probably not something I would listen to outside of just their first album, which is kind of the go-to for me with a lot of the classic 80s stuff. It's really not my style, so I liked it, didn't love it, but I'm glad I have it. It was definitely worth picking up. Next, we have this awesome double CD Terrorizer Before the Downfall. So this has all the demo stuff. This is all, I think, pre-World Downfall. This is great. A lot of live stuff in here. Rehearsal demos, split tapes, pretty much the perfect double CD for anyone who's a Terrorizer fan. And honestly, anything past World Downfall I haven't listened to. I can't imagine it's necessarily something I need. So for a band like that, this is perfect. Essentially, you get World Downfall CD LP, which I have. You get this double digipack, and that's about it. That's all you need. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's Terrorizer. You really don't need to know much more than what I just said there. Next, we have a band that I've heard of for a while. Classic early death metal band, maybe second generation. This is their first album, and I'm glad I picked it up because I really enjoyed it. This is Hypocrisy, Penetralia. This was awesome. I didn't know what to expect from it. It's sort of like a Swedish death metal band without the HM2 pedal worship, sort of like Entombed Left Hand Path, but I think a little better. I definitely enjoyed this. This is going to be a double, triple, quadruple spin. It's definitely going to go on like the list of next CDs to listen to. Even if I get a bunch coming in the mail, this is probably going to go on top of that list because I really want to give it another spin, especially outside of the car where I can actually hear the audio better. This is great. This is great early death metal that I definitely overlooked, and I'm glad I picked it up. Then I have two, but I put it in order of how I actually placed the order. So I think this is the only band in here. Well, there's two bands I got two albums of. This is an older album. I just, for whatever reason, didn't pick it up. And we have Nunslaughter's Goat, and this is a different version of it. This is the Tanophobia pressing. Came with like a little mini poster. I'm not going to open it, but a little mini poster on the inside. Nunslaughter, self-explanatory. Pretty much raw, old school, punky death metal. I saw them once actually in Ohio in February. They were pretty awesome. I got to have the Red is the Color of Ripping Death picture disc signed by 3/4 of the band. And then I picked up at the same time the Kogia split, which they did, which will be a little mention of Kogia in the future. But Nunslaughter, great. Glad I have this pressing. I want to get each of their 5 albums on CD. I think I finally have them all. And then maybe the Devil's Conjuries. I think I have one. So that's about all you really need. And I have a bunch of picture disc, 7 inches. I can go through that at some point in another video. But for now, go. Next we have Sepultura, Beneath the Remains. I really enjoyed this album. This is something that for some reason, again, I never really picked up. I think the first album I picked up was Arise. I don't know why I didn't get Bestial Devastation, which I actually just got the LP from Hell's Headbangers. I think it was like a bootleg, but it's supposed to be the Cogumelo release. I like this better than Schizophrenia, so I love the first EP in release, the full, first full length. Schizophrenia I didn't care for that much, and then this and Arise I think are great as well. And after that, I didn't listen to Chaos AD, Roots, no need. And next we have Gospel of the Horns. This one was very unexpected. I know you can't really see it on the camera, but you can look it up. It's Gospel of the Horns, Realm of the Damned. This was really interesting. I don't own a ton of Australian metal bands. The vocals on this were really weird, almost kind of reminded me of Travis Cattle Decapitation on his third album, To Serve Man. It was very unique. The only other band and album that reminded me of that was the Third Lord Gore album, which I also really enjoyed. This is just really awesome death thrash from Australia, or Blackened Death, whatever you want to call it, with great unique vocals. I definitely recommend picking this up because it's just something you're not going to really get from anywhere else. It's just a very unique release. Next, I have another classic band and album that I've heard of for a while. I listened to it. I got to say, I'm actually kind of disappointed. I know this is one of Reaper's favorite, and it's Infernal Majesty, None Shall Defy. I don't even remember the title of it, so I just had to look at it now. I didn't really care for it. I thought the vocals were kind of weird. Again, it's one of those classic bands that maybe not super classic, not that everyone's heard of, but when the underground considered classic, I'm glad I picked it up, glad I listened to it. Maybe if I listened to it again under different circumstances, paid more attention to it, listening to music in the car is never the best because you're not necessarily paying attention to every part, and the acoustics aren't great, but I didn't really care for it that much. Glad I picked it up still. We'll give it another listen, but at least for this point, I didn't really care for it too much. So unfortunately, probably the least favorite of everything I picked up. Next, we have a Gore Grind 3-way split with Hemdale, Hemorrhage, and Meat Spreader. Not too much I could say about this. Pretty standard Gore Grind stuff. Hemorrhage is awesome. I picked up a bunch of their CDs and LPs recently, and for Hemdale, they're awesome. Their split with Exhumed was fantastic. Probably my release of the year. Of course, it wasn't released this year. It came out in like 96, but thanks to Hell's Headbangers for putting that out. And when I saw Exhumed this year, got the meet and greet pack, and I got to have the band, Matt and Ross signed the CD and LP for me. So that was really cool. But other than that, the songs on here were kind of unmemorable. This is something I had on my want list for a while because I know all the bands, but really wasn't that great. So not necessarily something I will go back into and listen to a lot. Probably the other releases, at least by Hemorrhage and Hemdale, and I don't own anything else by Meat Spreader, and probably won't. So, and as mentioned earlier, the band Kogia of Ohio is one of the bands I do like. Well, I'm an idiot and picked up this Kogia, which is a black metal Kogia. I can't even read the title because they printed it so poorly. It's like red on red text, Blood and Necrosemen. Yeah, black metal band. Didn't listen to this. I should give it a chance at least, but I basically picked it up like an idiot thinking it was the Ohio Kogia, and it isn't. That's okay. Maybe they'll be awesome. If not, this could be a future giveaway. So if anyone out there likes this CD or they like this band and they're smarter than me and actually did 10 seconds of research and realized it was a different band and you want this, let me know in the comments below. Maybe I'll do a giveaway in the future. All right, one of the two bands I mentioned that I picked up 2 releases by, pretty much self-explanatory here, is another Nunslaughter. This is Angelic Dread. This is, again, I wanted to have their albums, all of them in my collection. I think they only have like 6 because they mostly have splits and 7 inches and everything. So I have this on CD/LP. I thought it was decent. Nunslaughter's not my favorite band. Sorry, J-Dog, just not. They're okay. I feel like just having the 6 albums or so is pretty mandatory underground, I guess. But at the end of the day, if this disappeared from my collection, I wouldn't be that disappointed. So sorry, anyone who's like a huge Nunslaughter fan. Again, it's fine, but I feel like a lot of the songs are pretty similar. Again, it's good. I enjoyed it. It's going to be something I'll spin a couple times, but not going to be top of the pile. All right, another classic that I feel like I needed in my collection that I enjoyed better the second time I listened to, especially because I had it on CD and not digitally. Exodus, Bonded by Blood. Pretty much needs no introduction. Paul Baloff on vocals. Great classic thrash metal band. It's not in the uh, main four, but it's like the secondary four. If you were to create, a second top four American thrash bands, this would be one of them. Even though, other than the first album, I think a lot of people tend to dismiss them after that. I think this was okay, but I'm probably not going to pick up anything else after this. So glad to have it in the collection. Maybe I'll pick up the LP as well, but for now, this is all I have, and probably not going to get too many more respins, although I definitely enjoyed this better the second time around. Now, a band that disappeared was around in the late 80s, but then disappeared, came back with a new lineup, and I'm definitely glad they did, is the band Witch's Hammer from Canada. And I know this band because Jesse James of Assimilation is in this band, and this was one of the bands he had mentioned in one of the interviews he did, and I'm a huge Assimilation fan. So this is great. This is speed metal, late 80s, speed thrash. Definitely something worth getting your hands on if you're a fan of that style of music. There's 2 albums. This one was a bit more affordable to get for whatever reason. The one before this wasn't. So I think this is definitely good. And if you're into that style of music, definitely look them up. I can't vouch for their 80s music, but this is their new and improved style, and it pretty much sounds like it would be from the late 80s. So I know this is good. Definitely worth picking up. This is called Devourer of the Dead. Next, we have a band that is very similar to one of the early ones I mentioned, where it's like a classic second-gen death metal band that I just never really decided to pick up before. I'm glad I did, and that's Malignant Creation, The Fine Art of Murder. I believe this is their 5th CD. This one was fantastic. This is definitely going to get multiple spins. This is something that I'm really glad I picked up. They're a great band that I just never really paid attention to. They're one of those bands that easily could tour with Cannibal Corpse, Deicide, but for whatever reason, were never as famous, never as popular. But they're definitely a great band, and I'm glad I finally started paying attention to them after about 20 years being into metal. So it took me a while, but I'm glad I finally figured out, hey, it's a good idea to pick them up. So second band here, I'll just show them both off, that I have 2 releases for, and this was one of my bands that were my album of the year, Necromantheon. This is great. This is a sort of tech thrash band. I have We're Rotting over here, and then this is Divinity of Death. This is a full length, I believe, and then this is a compilation or a demo. I'm not quite sure, but I have the CD here of both and the LP of both as well. These guys are great. Their album Vision of Trismegios, I believe it's pronounced. I'm not quite sure, but that album was one of my albums. It was my album of the year when it came out. For whatever reason, I could never pronounce it, but great band. Tech thrash. Definitely check them out. Necromantheon is awesome. And then last but not least, an amazing U.S. technical, speedy death metal band that is now members of this band became Perdition Temple, but it's Angel Corpse. And this is the release Death Dragon of the Apocalypse. Kind of interesting. I believe this is like a combination of like maybe their early stuff, live stuff, demos. I also picked up all their albums on CD. I had them on LP, but I just hadn't been spinning it, so I decided to pick them up on CD instead. Glad I did. These guys are just great. I also picked up that Impiety, which was Gene's earlier band. It was the 7-inch set Hells had put out. And then, of course, I own all the Perdition Temple CDs as well. So all 4 of their albums, as well as the Angel Corpse albums, this, and then they also had like an EP that came out on CD. I know there's a few other releases, but at least these were the ones I got my hand on. So if you're into like Chrysian, let's say Altars of Madness era, Morbid Angel, I mean, chances are if you're watching me, you already know what this is, so I don't need to explain it. But definitely another great pickup. Glad I got it, and this is the last one on my list. So that was it. If you like it, please give me any suggestions of other videos you want me to do. If there's anything else that you think would be a great conversation for me, or other, let's say, releases that I have, favorite bands that you know that I like, or if it's something I mentioned in the past outside of this channel that you want to see a collection video of, let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video.